I'm going to be qualifying. I've damaged my sign. About a major bushcrafting topic, and that is batoning. And I know that I've said anyone who batons their knife is an idiot, and you know what? If you're in a real survival situation, and you need to baton your knife, I don't have a problem with that. It's this concept that batoning is some sort of paragon of bushcrafting. The technique of, you know what? Before I started watching YouTube and knife videos, I'd never seen anyone baton. I had no idea that people were doing that to their knives. Like, really, I totally, take these off, those lights are really bright. I had no idea that that this was considered, like de rigueur, like this is what you do with a bushcraft knife, you baton with it. I had never ever heard of it or had no concept of it until I started watching knife videos on YouTube. Pardon me, people testing knives. Now, the real issue that I have is when I see people batoning something like that. I mean, that's more a companion. And, the blade is short, the blade is thin, and it comes to a point, a pretty sharp point, pardon me, which means that that point is very vulnerable to damage, okay? And I have broken off the tip of a knife just by throwing it into a floorboard, and the tip broke off. That was actually which is why you don't see any Gerber knives here. Well, actually, no, I've got a Gerber knife. It was a Gerber Big Rock, which just really cheapy. Yeah, but I shouldn't have done it. But yeah, I thought, wow, that's a bit crap. It broke off just doing that. But that's the problem that I have when I see people beating up on knives like that, doing, survival bushcraft testing of the knife. I mean, have a look at it. It's tiny. Alright, it's thin, it's short, it's pointy. Whoa, where's this going in there? Oh, the wrong way. So that's the real problem that I have. And the fact that batoning is a standard that knives have to pass. Now, what I have on the table here, that's not a knife, is knives that I would be willing to baton with, okay? But like, if I was out in the field and, the axe wasn't handy or machete wasn't handy, oh bugger it, I'll just use a knife. These are the knives that I would be willing to do it with. Willing. I didn't say I'd be doing it with them. I'd say I'd be willing. One knife that is a absolute just beast of a knife that I would not be willing to baton with is, even though this thing is 1/4 inch thick, it's the LMF2. I bought this a long time ago. But it's just too short. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you think about it. What's the biggest, piece of wood diameter that you'll be willing to baton with? And you're probably looking at, and I've seen people beating up on these things. Yet, realistically, you're looking at maybe, you'd be pushing it 2.5 inches, 2 inches. Now, because the cutting edge, and it's partly serrated, so that's a problem. So, because the cutting edge is only like 4.5 inches long, 4 and 3/4 inches long. Now, how big a piece of wood, would you be able to baton with that? It's not very big. And when you're talking about something that's about that diameter, why are you batoning it in the first place? Like, seriously? Why would you need to baton a small piece of wood like that in the first place? It doesn't make any sense. Okay? Why would you need to split that little piece of wood? It's already little. Okay? It's going to burn all right. You don't need to cut it down any smaller to burn. All right? I've never done a review of the LMF2. Yeah, I'll do one later because it's a bit of a weird knife. Yeah, but first of all, tonight I am imbibing in Pilsner Urquell. That's not the proper name. Pilsner Urquell is German for Pilsner from the source. It's brewed in Pilsen in the Czech Republic, and it's Pilsner, which makes sense because it's from Pilsen. Now, the reason why it's got a bit of a German name in that is because of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Czech Republic and Slovakia, which in the Austro-Hungarian Empire was what was it? It was Bohemia and Moravia, if I can remember, and Silesia. Yeah, Bohemia and Moravia, and so this is proper Bohemian Pilsner. These are the first guys that ever brewed beer that looked like that. Okay, if you're drinking a beer that looks like that, then you're drinking a pseudo Pilsner, a Pilsner or a pseudo Pilsner, because the only people who can actually say that they make Pilsner is the people in Pilsen, and they're still making it exactly the same way. They use massive oak barrels and vats. They brew everything exactly the same as they used to. They have not changed anything. They have not tooled up. It's pretty. You will not be able to walk into a large, medium to large German brewery that has not got state-of-the-art, stainless steel, computer-controlled. Yeah, because that's how Germans are. I'm half German, so I can say that. I'm not boasting, but these guys still are making it exactly the same way, and that is since 1842. So the first ever straw-coloured beer that of around 5% that was ever made was in 1842. Okay, before that, all other beer was all dark, and the reason for that is coal. Okay, that's what changed it. The discovery of large deposits of coal, using coal to fire the oast houses, which dried the grain. So this is, its proper name is Pilsenski Prazdroj, which means Pilsen's product, basically. Yeah, and the difference between this and say VB, Forex, Chili's, any of them, or any of the foreign Pilsners is that none of them taste like this. None of them. They use a 5-strain yeast, so 5 different strains of yeast. Anyway, that's enough of the beer. It's beautiful. If you've never tried Pilsner Urquell, try it. You'll probably hate it because you're just drinking. Most people grew up, and I was the same. I grew up drinking essentially what was carbonated urine. The majority of beer, mass-produced beer, that is a Pilsner rip-off copy, is essentially just crap, just cheaply made. Yeah, carbonated urine. That's what you are drinking. I still drink, on a hot day. Beer's beer. But anyway, pardon me. So back to the subject at hand. Knives that I would be willing to baton with. Pardon me. Oh man. I think I've got COVID actually. No, I'm just joking. Sorry. Like I said before, if you find yourself for whatever reason, if I found myself naked, lost, trying to rub, two sticks together to make a fire, and this is all that I had. Oh, I've got a spider crawling up my hat. Yeah, well, you're going to do whatever you need to do with it to stay alive. I couldn't give a rat's ass, Hey, you're going to do what you got to do. But there's a gentleman whose channel that I watch. His name is Sean Ryan, Seanryan. Sean Ryan. He's an ex. There's something crawling around in my hat. It's a tiny spider. He's an ex-SEAL. And I remember on one video he said, if you find yourself naked, lost, rubbing two sticks together to start a fire, you've really screwed up. So, he's right. Yeah, so I would not want to be needing to use this. I'd be quite happy to, because it's a fantastic little knife, but, you want something bigger. So, knives that I would be quite willing to baton with. So we'll start from, I suppose we'll start from the cheapest. I think go something like that. Something like that. We'll start cheap, and I think it's somewhere there. I think it's even cheaper. I think. Right. So the first one is the Condor knife and tool, Hudson Bay knife. I mean, that is crazy thick. Okay, that is a really that's a cleaver, really. All right, it's not really a knife. It's a cleaver. All right, chop and baton. Definitely a chopper. Definitely a chopper. I don't have a problem with chopping, because there is less risk of breaking the blade if you are using the blade as a chopper. If you are smacking onto it, especially if you're hitting a knot or something and you start smashing that thing harder and harder, you could quite possibly break it, all right? Which would be disastrous in a survival situation. But this is the Condor Hudson Bay. Yeah, it's a beast of a knife. Now the next one is the Becker BK7. Now I would be willing to baton with this, but I wouldn't. If I was going to be carrying a knife with the intention of maybe doing some batoning, I would have the BK9, which is 2 inches longer. Yeah, but these things, I've never batoned with it, but these things are supposed to baton like split wood like crazy because of the grind. It's a bit of a high saber grind, but apparently, yeah, they're the shit. The next knife that I would be willing to baton with is the Schrade SCHF 37M, which is a survival knife. Now that is a ridiculously crazy knife. Thick. As far as the thickness is concerned, it's crazy thick. Again, and it's long enough, so you can. I mean, how big a piece of wood would you be able to baton with it? Probably, realistically, you're looking at like 3.5 inches, maybe 4 inches. 3.5 inches. I mean, how big's 3.5 inches? It's there. All right, a piece of wood that. Why are you needing to split it? Like, really? What? Are you seriously telling me that you can't find any twigs or branches that are that small already? No, you have to search out the biggest branch you could possibly risk batoning with and have a go at that, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. All right, I'm sorry, it just doesn't. It's just silly. Now, another knife I would be willing to baton with is this thing, the Boca Dragon Tota, the Dragon Slayer. It's got a false edge, but it's got quite a decent flat area on that false edge. It's not just round, it's actually flat. It tapers and then it's flat. I would be willing to baton with this. The only issue that I would have with it again is that you may well break that tip off because it comes to quite a point. But I'll tell you what, I think Baker makes a pretty tough knife. And again, you're not going to be batoning anything of any real diameter, which sort of, once you get to a certain diameter, you got to wonder, why are you even batoning it? You know, I need to make a base for a bow drill. Again, if you find yourself naked, alone, lost, trying to start a friction fire of any description, you've really screwed up. So here we have the Cold Steel Trailmaster. This is in, what's it in? I think this one's in SK5. Can't read it. Can't read it. Yeah, it's made in Taiwan. It's Trailmaster. I'm pretty sure it's SK5. Now, one thing about Cold Steel, the only reason I bought this is because I was really hankering for a big buoy, yeah. And this SK5 steel, one thing about Cold Steel, I tell you what, old Lynn Thompson, a lot of people really hate his guts for whatever reason. I mean, he is a bit of a wanker, but who isn't? I'm a wanker. You're probably a wanker too, at times. It's about certain things. No one's perfect. I mean, give the guy a break. He's really done a lot for. Personally, I think that Lynn Thompson has done a lot for providing knives at a reasonable price and swords and axes and God knows what else, than any other person that I know of. You know, really, you may hate his videos and him and whatever, but you cannot fault. I just touched it up then. You cannot fault the product that he puts out. It's that's the thickest knife I've got currently. That is, how thick is that? Oh man, this thing is just so thick. It is. You are looking at. Oh wow. Wow. That's bogus. That is 7.5 mil thick, whatever that translates to in 7.5 millimeters thick. That's crazy thick. It's got a false edge, but it does come to quite. Again, you could break the tip off, but that's a beast of a knife. That's crazy. And there's sheaths of really nice leather. Anyway, so the next knife, you've just seen this one recently. And the Shade you saw recently. The R-Tac 2. I mean, look at the size of that friggin' thing. That handle, it's just massive. I mean, that's a BK7 handle. So that's the BK7 handle. That is the R-Tac 2 handle. Look at that. It's just a monster of a knife. I feel sad for people with small hands who hanker for the R-Tac. The R-Tac 2, because wow, it's huge. This coating is really rough. I don't know if I mentioned that in the previous video, but it's really rough. And people say, oh, that coating's really rough, it really sort of jams up when I'm batoning. Well, it's probably because it's not meant for batoning. But I don't think I'd have any problems batoning with that. I mean, you could baton a big piece of wood with that. You're looking at I reckon you could eat it for, yeah, alright, 7 inches log, 6-7 inches in diameter, you could baton with that, no problems. And I don't have a problem batoning with 1095 because it is a very tough steel. Again, yeah, I'd be willing to baton with it, but why would you want to? You know, that's my issue. That's my issue. Is, you know, I'm a bushcrafter, and because there's sort of a crossover, you know, between man, I'm dying on it. There's a sort of a crossover between bushcrafting and survival, you know, or the channels anyway, the bushcrafting and survival channels. You know, what is bushcrafting? It's doing shit the hard way. Really, that's what it is. It's doing things the hard way instead of, you know, I'm going camping overnight and I'm going to start a bow drill fire. Right. I've got a lighter in my pocket, but I'm going to start a bow drill fire. And people say, well, you should, that's a skill that you need to learn and practice. You know, I've seen a lot of videos of people doing bow drill fires, and I've watched a lot of videos of people doing bow drill fires. It's pretty much one technique. There's a few, like Dave Canterbury's probably, watching him do a bow drill fire, that's probably the best one man, those lights are bright. That's probably the best one that I've seen. But then again, like, pardon me, hydrate. But then again, like, I've seen him have difficulty doing bow drill fires. And he says it, you know, he carries a bic, you know. Now, you know, unless you're in the unfortunate circumstance of being lost, alone, in the middle of nowhere, with just that to deal with, you know, you'd take something like this, okay? That's what you would take with you. The other thing that you would take with you, to avoid beating the crap out of your knives, it's called an axe. Specifically designed for splitting wood. Chopping and splitting wood. I like the shape of this one. It's only a cheapie, but I like it's got a very broad beard, which most of them are a bit narrow in the beard. That's what that's called, the beard. So, hey, the Fiskars, so that's got a really narrow beard. I mean, look at the difference. Take that cover off. You know, the narrow beard on the Fiskars is just, to my mind, it's a little bit too narrow. Now, they have a completely different profile, and I am going to do a test of all the hatchets that I've got, just to see which ones perform the best. One of the ones that I particularly like is the Heart, because, you know, there's no way you're going to break that handle because it's just over molded with a full tang. Well, I'm assuming it's a full tang. Now this thing, I reckon this thing's going to chop like crazy. It's bloody heavy, but so I think this one I'd keep in the car, and we can't get the thing on because it is so heavy. This one I would keep in the car, and that one's a fair bit lighter. This one is very light. If you're going to be, you know, chopping with it, you usually need to have a bit of weight behind them, you know. Kydex, nah, it's fine. This thing, survival, what's it called? Power. Yeah, just power. Yeah. whatever. It's a survival hatchet. You can, yeah, I got that pretty sharp actually. And I haven't touched that in ages. It's stayed sharp. It's a survival hatchet because it's got a hollow handle. And inside is a whole bunch of goodies. You know, the usual stuff. Fishing hooks, matches. Yeah, so the nice thing, it's got a spring in there so it doesn't rattle around. It's under tension. Now what have we got in here? Because I haven't actually opened, I don't think I've opened this. It's got matches, hooks, fishing line, elastoplast, band-aids. So, I mean, I understand the concept. It's not a bad concept. It's just that a lot of the times this actual cheapos, I mean, it's not totally cheap. You know, that grip, it's like sandpaper. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. It serves a purpose. Made out to do the job chopping. That's another one that's going to be tested. Probably Kydex too. So, you know, you've got instruments for chopping and splitting wood. Now, again, my question is, why do you need to split the wood? You know, you know what? Pretty much everywhere that I go, you can find, you know, dead standing wood of various sizes. So you don't need to split it. You shouldn't need to split it, you know, unless you're making the base for a bow drill. Now, at the other end of the spectrum is saws. So this is a Fisker's retracting saw. It works quite well. It's not bad at all. Yeah, I think pretty good of it. You just got to watch that. They're ridiculously sharp. Yeah, so why use your knife as a chopper when you can just use this? It's a lot more efficient. You're going to use a lot less energy, and do a much better job of it. And you can actually cut a baton with it, so you can baton your knife. You know. Now the other one is the Silky Gomboy. What a legend! Yeah, yeah, another fantastic saw. Yeah, so why chop when you can saw and do a much better job of it? Now, the other thing is machetes. Okay, this is a machete, but there's essentially what I consider to be two types of machetes: a chopping machete, an all-around chopping machete, and a slashing machete. The slashing machetes are the Brazilian very thin, long blades. Okay, this is not a slashing machete. This is a chopping machete because it's quite thick. And the weight is at the end, so you can really lay into it. That's another Condor. That's a Condor Gorok. Now, to my mind, if I needed to do some serious chopping, and I didn't want to carry an axe, and I didn't want to carry a machete, an axe and a machete, this is what I would pick. This is the Condor Pack Golok. Okay? With this thing, it's got a serious bit of heft behind it, and you are going to be... a lot of people are down on Condor because they 1055 or 1075 steel or whatever it is, it's just too soft. One of the advantages of having soft steel, especially out in the field, is that you're not having a nightmare sharpening it. It sharpens up easy. So there's a compromise between, all right, I've got M390 or Maximet or whatever,
oh, I've got this great knife that cost me, $1,000 and it's made out of max cement or M390 or whatever. Yeah, that's great. And you go in the field, you use it, and it will eventually get blunt. I mean, all knives do, and it may not get blunt as quickly as a cheaper steel knife, but it will get blunt. And then when you go to sharpen it, it's just you got to wait till you get back home to be able to sharpen it properly. Pardon me. So there is a case for soft steels, and Condor make working blades. I think now with Joe Flowers and Matt Graham and all those guys joining the club, they're getting a bit wackier. But though traditionally Condor made working blades, so then if your business is essentially about making blades for people to use, on a farm, in the field, whatever, then you're going to make blades. You're going to make implements that are practical. And even though this is only, there you go. Even though this is only, I think, 1055, you can get that thing. I just hit it with the, you can get these things sharp. And the reality is that you don't really need to get them crazy sharp because you're going to be chopping with it. You can do finer stuff, But in fact, if I had to pick a one tool option, like if I was told, you're only allowed to take one tool with you. It's a test. It's a survival test, bushcraft survival test, and you're only allowed to take one tool. I'll tell you what, this would come close, because there is a lot that you can do with that. You can do the fine stuff, feather sticking. As I mentioned before, I'd never seen anyone batoning before I got onto YouTube. I'd never seen anyone feather stick before I got onto YouTube. Yeah. The whole time that I've been, stuffing around in the field, camping, in the military, whatever. If we didn't make a fire, we just found, material for burning that was of a decent size for the purpose. I've never had to baton or feather stick lighting a fire, like never, because I think it's a complete waste of time and just silly. But anyway, if I had to pick a one tool option, this would come close. You know what I'm saying? This would come close. The Rat Attack 2. I mean, it'd be a toss-up. It really would be a toss-up. That would be a great blade to take with you, because if you were in a desperate situation, depending on the situation, if you had to deal with some nasty individuals and this is all you had, I think you would come out on top if you could sneak up to them without the sheath rattling. There's not much you can't do with that either. You can really. There is a choil there, but I'd have to grind a little bit off because I don't trust that. But you can do anything with this knife. It's like when they say, small fishing hooks will catch small fish and big fish. Whereas with knives, it's the opposite. Big knives, you can do the small stuff and the big stuff. With a small knife, you can only do the small stuff. You can't do the big stuff. But I highly rate this. Personally, I think this is the compromise between an axe and a saw. There's really no, and it's a I was saying I'm not used to convex bevels. Well, this is a convex bevel, yeah, but it's a huge convex, not a little one like on that Svord. So even these axes you can sharpen up. You know, like how sharp's that? You can sharpen these things up to be ridiculously sharp. I'm just going to use this thing. I don't know what steel Fiskars uses for these things, but I think that you can get really sharp. It's nice steel. Yeah. Fail. Fail. Where did I have it? Yeah. And fail. There's no. I did have that crazy sharp a while ago, but there's no need to get an axe really sharp. Unless it's the only tool you got, you know. Yeah. So, you know, someone who I really like is Lars from Survival Russia. If you've not seen his channel, watch Survival Russia. He's a really top bloke, and he's a Dane. He's Danish, and one thing about the Danes is that they are they're very nice people, but they're very matter of fact. It's just like, hey, that's stupid. He just comes out and says it, and he says batoning is stupid. He loves these things, the silkies. One thing about silky is that really you could sharpen that spine up, because this steel is really nice. You could sharpen that spine up to be razor sharp, and you would have a knife and a saw in one. Of course, it's not really designed to go that way. You're going to end up having an accident. But if you needed to, you could do it. You know. So I just wanted to lay that one to rest, because there's probably a lot of people saying, yeah, he's very opinionated when it comes to batoning. Well, yeah, I am opinionated when it comes to batoning, because it doesn't really make any sense. All right, there's no point. Unless you are seriously in a seriously desperate situation. Unless you are in a seriously desperate situation, you're not going to baton a knife like that. Well, I'd have a better knife than that. Well, not necessarily. Now, yeah, I was going to talk about the LMF2. The LMF2 is, in my opinion, jeez, that's tight. It's got this massive pommel that comes to a beak, that comes to a point. That's a beak. It comes to a point. And it's got lashing holes, so you can make a spear, lash it to a stick and make a spear out of it. And it is so handle heavy. Where's the point of balance? It's there. Okay, the point of balance is there. It is super handle heavy. That handle is huge. Yeah, it's meant as an infantry knife. I don't know. Maybe there are some soldiers who carrying it, whatever. I don't know. I would not carry this. It weighs a ton. Like, really, it weighs a ton. But anyway, that's getting off the subject. So, if you know. And the other thing about batoning is that it's not a particularly hard skill. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're not talking neurosurgery, so it's not like, well, you never baton, so if you were in a desperate situation, you wouldn't know how to. I mean, come on, please. Yeah, that's just silly. or feather sticking. Oh, I never see you feather stick. Well, you never will, because there's no point. Alright? No point. You find a dead tree, you are going to find sticks from 1 millimetre, 2 millimetres diameter, an eighth of an inch in diameter up. So you're going to have everything that you need. So you're not going to try and burn a green tree, because it's not going to happen. So unless you put petrol on it, so gasoline, what you guys call gasoline. So I just wanted to lay that to rest. I don't really have a problem with batoning per se. What I do have a problem with is how it's portrayed as an essential test of a knife. If you can't baton with a knife, then that knife is useless. Listen, right tool for the job. Knives aren't made for batoning. Yeah, some are. Some are, clearly. Well, this thing, you can baton with that. You can baton with the Schrade. You can baton with that. The RTAC too. Yeah, you can baton with them, no problems. I wouldn't bat an eyelid if I saw someone batoning with one of those knives. But meanwhile, he's got a saw and an axe in his pack, or hanging off his pack, and you go, why are you doing that? I mean, what's the logical answer? Oh, you gotta keep that skill up. I don't know. Unless you got a learning difficulty, I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I just wanted to address the batoning issue and what my problem is with it. And I think Lars is pretty much of the same opinion. If you want to beat the shit out of your knife, go ahead. I don't have a problem with it. You can do it as much as you want, but does it really serve any purpose? Is there any logical reason for doing it? No. Realistically, no. You need a baton. So how are you going to get that baton? You're going to chop. Yeah, you're going to chop a baton. I mean, for a decent baton, you need something that's of a decent, diameter, like 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Now, how are you going to get that baton? Because when you see someone testing, a companion with a batoning, they've got a baton, and you're like, where'd you get the baton? You didn't cut that with this thing. You're going to be there for like all day trying to chop a baton with that. So therefore, that batoning test of a knife that is incapable even of, it's not incapable, but it's just so impractical to create a baton in the first place, and a flat sawn tree stump. yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So I just wanted to get that over with. And I'm also bored, so I'm just making more videos. I'll just show you something. I don't know if I've shown you that. This is these 6-inch, half-inch by 6-inch ferro rods, and so I put a bamboo handle on it. This is it's actually, I think that's, I don't know what that. These handles, you can buy these laminated bamboo handles that are meant for something, but yeah, you can't go wrong with that, eh? Yeah. Excellent. So anyway, I'm going to shut up now and go away. Take these off now, and I'll see you later.